get to Kash Patel now. He's a former deputy assistant to President Trump, former chief of staff at the Department of Defense, and the author of Government Gangsters. Kash, good to have you back with us.
Hey, it's great to be with you. And rumor has it you're an Arkansas boy. I was just in Northwest Arkansas for the Washington County Lincoln Day 2 days ago. So greetings from Arkansas. Well, actually, I'm on the road again.
Well, that is, I got to say, Kash, that is some rumor because that's the first time I've ever heard that. I'm not an Arkansas boy, but I'm glad you're on the road. All right, cool, man. All right. Hey, what do you make of this letter? I didn't mention, and I should, that the media is doing a big thing today. Yeah. They're really emphasizing that this guy is also putting a 6-figure bounty on the head of President Trump to, quote, complete the job. And the Justice Department released this today in a court filing. What do you make of all of it?
Well, look, as a former national security prosecutor, this type of evidence is critical to determine the state of mind of the individual, of the suspect, in this case, of this guy, the assassin, because that's what he is. And he gave this letter in a box of content to a quote-unquote friend, and that friend supposedly never opened it until after he heard that Routhe was taken out while trying to assassinate President Trump, or arrested, excuse me. And so it was pre-planned. And so what this does is it levels a critical blow to any sort of insanity defense claim. And furthermore, it should be the critical piece of evidence needed to charge this man with the attempted assassination of a president of the United States. Yes. That is a major federal crime that deserves life in prison. So it's critical. I'm glad they put it out. I'm curious as to why they did it in this fashion. They must have, knowing Merrick Garland, a political reason for doing so.
But doesn't it seem weird to you that he would write a note like this and then declare that he failed to achieve his mission of assassinating President Trump? Isn't that strange? Is there a sister note of some kind where he declares victory? They didn't tell us that.
Right. Look, here's the thing about Merrick Garland's politicized Department of Justice. There isn't a single move he makes that doesn't interfere with this election, whether it is back to his roots of the 51 Intel letter days, or whether it is a two-tier system of justice, unlawfully prosecuting Trump and letting Biden off. He has his button on everything. So this was done methodically, and I think it was done to show the appearance that they are being neutral and impartial. But we'll see when all the charges are set and filed. It's still a little early in the game to be doling out which charges haven't been filed, because that does, in my experience, also it takes a little time to piece together big murder cases.
So one of the other things that we found out today is that the law enforcement officials, the New York Times writes today, searching his Nissan SUV, found a, quote, handwritten list of dates in August, September, and October of this year in venues where the former president had appeared or was expected to be present. Agents also found six cell phones, including one that contained a Google search of how to travel from Palm Beach County to Mexico, as well as 12 pairs of gloves, a Hawaii's driver's license in his name, and a passport. Now, this whole thing of like a list of dates of places where he's either been, that is Donald Trump, or expected to be, it seems to me that they're trying to lay out that, he was just randomly picking locations that President Trump would go. And I'm still wondering how he knew to be at that golf course that day.
So to me, that's the question. To me, that is the quintessential question that the Department of Justice has not answered publicly yet. How did he, an assassin, get a private location of President Trump? Because remember, that golf course is seasonal. It's closed. There's no play there during the summer months. And so he had to have gotten a schedule somehow from some government entity. And that's the only way he would know Donald Trump is going to be playing that morning, because it wasn't publicized and it wasn't on the schedule. What's further troubling is this list that you pointed out. He has known Donald Trump's movements in the past, but worse, he has known them going forward, meaning he had plans to not only be there on that day and take this shot, but if it didn't work out and he didn't get arrested, he knew where this guy was going to be going forward, and he was probably staking out those areas. And there needs to be an investigation on all of that.
That's really important. That note, that list of dates and the venues where the president was, quote, expected to be present. Because, in covering campaigns, Kash Patel, I've noticed that normally we really don't get advance notice of locations for events until publicly about a week. That's about it. It's usually at most you get a week's advance notice that the president's going to be in some state or at some stadium. This guy was dating it out months.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not somebody that's going to be able to come into court and say, I really just lost my mind on this day, and I really dislike this man. I mean, look at the letter he penned. He goes to great detail to show you how much he dislikes President Trump and the bounty he was willing to put on President Trump. And remember, this is not a past threat. The letter admits he failed, and he's offering a current bounty on the head of President Donald Trump. That in and of itself is another crime going forward. And so who was he specifically talking to? Was he engaging with anyone else to set up this operation? I find it very hard to believe he was a total lone wolf to put this type of operation together, which included past, present, and future dates of a presidential movement, which only the Secret Service should know and immediate law enforcement authority. But the question I have is, did the FBI know it? Did DHS know it? And did those folks talk to anyone in the media and leak that critical information?
So I have a couple more questions on this bounty thing. He's offering, I mentioned 6 figures. The number is $150,000, as we wrote in this letter.
Mm-hmm.
Where did this guy get $150,000 from?
Another great question.
Where's his money from?
And that's exactly right. I mean, we don't know anything about his bank accounts. We don't know anything about his funding. So I do know for a fact that this guy had a GoFundMe website to hire mercenary forces out of Taliban Afghanistan-controlled territory and ship them to the Ukraine.
Yeah.
So this guy is literally an international mercenary. That's another piece of this guy's life that no one's talking about.
Yes.
He was literally importing mercenary soldiers into the Ukraine. He thought it was so important to do that.
I want to talk more about Ukraine in a moment, but one last thing on this $150,000 bounty. Shouldn't the Justice Department have redacted that element from this letter before it publicly released it? Why would they create encouragement for more people to take the same path?
That's a brilliant point. That's what I would have done, and it's not surprising to me that these government gangsters further want to light fire to the already politicized Department of Justice and endanger President Trump's life even more so. They should have taken that out, and they should have separately been investigating any further threads and leads from this individual's first assassination attempt and who may be in contact with to conduct future assassination attempts. Instead, what do? They publicize it and say, to the world and say, look, this guy's got a bounty on Trump's head from prison. And now you're going to see people read that and react to it, even those that weren't in the planning process. That's another series of crimes that is ongoing and now publicized thanks to Merrick Garland.
Also, how many people do you know who have 6 cell phones? 6 of them. I don't. That strikes me as suspicious. Mm-hmm.
No, exactly. I used to when I was in government, but the people, private citizens, don't have 6 cell phones. You have 1 and maybe 2 for work, if that's the way you live your life. But 6 is an individual who has purposely stylized communications to be hidden and off the grid and not traceable, and using different locations and GPS tracking devices and multiple apps and different emails. I mean, this is pretty sophisticated stuff, not to mention the fact that ain't cheap. Going back to the $150,000, if this guy had 6 cell phones operational, where did he get all this money? He doesn't seem to have had a real job in the last decade.
He's apparently close to the Ukrainian government. At one point, a legacy news reporter told the rest of us after this assassination attempt that she was actually connected to him by the Ukrainian government. That's how she got in touch with him in the first place. So he was all over places like Kiev, and he was trying to argue for Americans to join the fight with Ukrainians, and clearly hated President Trump for even entertaining an attempt to try and bring a peace to that region. How much do you think the Ukraine conflict plays in all of this?
Well, it doesn't seem to want to go away. The endless war that was launched on the Harris administration's part because of their ineptitude and intentional disregard for global diplomacy has now come full center in Donald Trump's latest assassination attempt, number 2. And they are using it as a political football to generate more media. And what do we see this week? Ukrainian President Zelensky touring a Pennsylvania arms factory and signing bombs with Governor Shapiro and effectively campaigning for Harris in the United States of America. Everything and every situation that this government, this administration has handled regarding the Ukraine has been wrong. And this guy's ties to the Ukraine need to be investigated. That's a great point. Who else did he know over there, and what Americans was he communicating with to get to the Ukrainian capital?
Also, I know, but given your proximity to President Trump and your obsession with the truth around all of these issues, that you know how this would go if a Trump supporter had attempted to do something similarly to Kamala Harris. This guy is Ryan Routhe is crystal clear. He's a globalist. He's a Kamala supporter. He's an enthusiastic Biden supporter. He says that democracy is on the ballot. He supports Biden and Harris because they, quote, defend democracy. It's absolutely crystal clear what his motivations are, down to the letter that was just released today by the United States Department of Justice. Have you marveled at the unwillingness of the media to mention this to the public?
Well, they're in on it. That like they're always in on every attempt to hide the truth when it cuts against the political narrative they want established. They do not want to undercut the Harris-Biden administration, especially since Harris is running for president. They are directly tied to the subversion and perversion of the truth for political gain. So it doesn't surprise me one bit that they have been basically putting on blinders, and the media has not been doing any investigative. Where are the investigative journalists for the mainstream media who would, in an assassination attempt on Harris or Biden, be flying all over the world, interviewing witnesses, publicizing on social media, demanding Congress take action, issuing calls for open investigations, and subpoenaing subpoenaing DOJ and FBI officials and DHS officials to be like, what went wrong? We're not doing or seeing any of it.
By the way, Speaker Mike Johnson's always looking for ways to impress the right. He's always looking for something he can do to make you think that he's working hard for you. This would be a really good thing for him to jump into. He should be in front of a microphone every day demanding answers on who tried to kill President Trump. But don't you think?
He's got a brilliant opportunity with the CR at stake right now in the continuing resolution to fund the government. He should be demanding Mayorkas, who controls the Secret Service, and the Secret Service director, and Christopher Wray, the FBI director, who didn't even think it was a bullet that hit President Trump in the head, appear before open testimony, before Congress, before any CR is issued, so that the American people in the world can hear the truth under oath. Why did you fail to secure Donald Trump's personal security after he was shot? And what caused your politicized government to try to ineptly allow him to be almost killed yet again? And we need those answers. And Mike Johnson could deliver those answers really easily. Those guys would show up in a heartbeat if you said, yeah, we'll get the CR funded as soon as you testify.
Yeah, he's like, they're always looking for like a distraction to pass massive spending bills. How about a real thing that makes us pleased with your leadership? And then we could talk about, okay, well, do we kick the can for a couple months? But no, not even that. Kash Patel, thank you very much. Good to talk to you today.